the book First, Second Kings, were two separate books, originally written as one book uniting story. It continues on the book of Samuel, and David unified the tribes of Israel, and God promises from his lines, a messianic king, establish God's kingdom over the nations, fulfill the promises to Abraham. The book of Kings tells a story along of kings of David. None of them lived up to the promise. They ran the nation of Israel right to the ground. The book design has defined five movements and ends in Jerusalem. For Solomon of reigns, his construction of his temple, and ending of Jerusalem destructions and exile to battle. This, leading the story, this static story, had the three sections explaining how Israel is split into two round the kingdoms, and the political profits of the kingdom, and the unavoidable consequences of Israel's sin. The book opens up in two chapters. The kingdom of Solomon succeeded David. It's very similar to Moses, Joshua, and Samuel. It's a call to remain faithful to the commandments of the covenant and give allegiance to the God of Israel. God's words is kind of hollow here because David Solomon has inspired him in the kingdom a series of political nations. Not a great start. The brightest moments when Solomon asks for wisdom and pleads political's dream for the God of Israel. But the story stops. The design of the temple and detail. It's like the tabernacle, the design of the Torah, all the schools, jewels, paintings of angels and fruit trees. It's all symbolism echoing the Garden of Eden, where heaven and every meet, where God's presence indwells with his people. And Solomon's filling the temple. There's a horrible choices, and Solomon's downfall falls apart, and marries daughters of other kings, 100 of them for political lines. And he adopts the king, worships of these gods to Israel. And Solomon accumulates huge amounts of wealth and a huge army, and into the slaves for all these projects, and all the Torah. You know, the guides Israel's king, Deuteronomy 17. Solomon's breaking all of them. Solomon dies, and becomes more like the pharaoh of Egypt than king of David. Because Solomon's gone, just like his father. The son of greed and power. She has to increase taxes for slave, and under the leadership of Jeroboam, northern tribe, reject this and rebelled and really formed their own rivalry. A story. Southern kingdom, Judah, Jerusalem, when the king of line of David, now this new northern kingdom, Israel, as the capital will be the Samaria eventually. Built two more camps to build with Solomon's and a calf, each calf, the God of Israel. The connection that exists between the two and the golden calf is all kind of listed. The story goes beyond back and forth in the south. Just in both to the kingdoms, had 26 existing kings. Now to introduce us to the kings and evaluates their reigns and the criterias. They worship the God of Israel alone, or did they promote the God worships the other gods? Did they honor the honesty of the people? Did they remain faithful to the covenant, or they corrupt and unjust? As ordered as criteria, no good kingdoms in northern Israel, 0 to 20, and southern Judah, 8 out of 20 have positive reading. And the whole purpose of this book, introducing the role of the prophets and the key figures. The Bible prophets were not fortune tellers. They spoke on the behalf of God, a God of Israel, and covenant watchdogs. They called out the idolatry and unjust, and the people. They constantly reminded of their calling. Be like the nations. They should be the branch of the Torah. Repent and follow the God. In certain sections, God raises up a prophets to recall them accountable. Those prophets and accountable prophets, Elijah and Elisha. Elijah was a wild man, or a man of prophet, living in the desert. This is at King Ahab, that's Jezebel. These two institute the worship of the Canaanite god Baal, over Israel. In a famous story, Elijah's challenge 400 prophets of Baal to a contest which God is real. They both build an altar and they both pray to their gods. Only the God of Israel answer with fire. Ahab answer with fire. And Israel also Abraham's farmer and stays vineyard. Elijah confronts Abraham's injustice and announces your downfall of your house. He proves his mantle to Elisha, his mantle to Elijah, and gives authority to Elijah. It's recounted scented for Elijah, and he offers a story, 14 acts of power for Elijah. Both prophets were called men. They played the same role, idolatry and injustice, ultimately unsuccessful from apostrophe. Northern Kingdom is a revolution by the king, King Jelu. It destroys Jehu's family. He was commissioned by God, but his violence out of control. There's a spiral of political assassinations and rebellions, and then Israel never recovers. And Kula falls coup, and each king follows other gods, another horrible injustice. It leads out to exile. In chapter 17, the back emperor sleeps down and takes down the northern kingdoms together, and the capital city is Samaria. And the Israelites, it scatters in ancient roads. Chapter 17 is key. The author stops and offers its prophetic reflection of what happened. Downfall of northern idolatry and the covenant faithfulness and unjust downfall of Genoa's kingdom. The final movement, the final book, in the southern kingdom, we met some heroic kingdoms like Hezekiah, who chases God's army and knocked on Jerusalem's door, or Josiah, who becomes the last Lord of Torah and starts reading it and can get convicted and start religious reforms to remove idolatry and the kingdom of his lands. But Judah's too far gone. For the king, Mazzacah is the worst by far. Why introduces the worship of idol statues for Jerusalem temple. He institutes child sacrifice. And God shows prophets, the time is up. Israel has reached the point of no return. Final chapter, at the Babylonian Empire, they invade Jerusalem, destroy the temple, and carry David to exile. The end story ends wondering, is God done with this Israel? Is he done with the life? David? The final paragraph resumes in the exile, an odd story. It's for Holy King, a descendant of David, who could have been king, is back to Jerusalem. But the reason back to Babylon, at the royal table, his whole life, and the book ends. Not that much, but a story, glimmer of hope. God has not abandoned the line of David. The question is, like, how? How is the faith that David had, messianic king? It asks those questions, and the wisdom, the prophetic books. That's the book story of the kings.